you. I would like to call the Education and Youth Matters Committee to order. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Ingrassia.
Present.
Alderman Gunther.
Here.
Alderwoman Rice.
Thank you. I would like to.
Alderwoman Rice.
Present.
Alderwoman Martin.
Present.
Alderwoman Navarro.
Present.
Alderwoman Middlebrook. Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Present.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Here.
Chairman Muhammad.
Here.
8 present, you have quorum.
Thank you. I would like to excuse Alderman Cone, and I call for approval of the minutes.
Do we have copies of the minutes? I apologize. Were those sent to us? Maybe I overlooked them.
They should have been sent via email.
I can forward them to you, Alderwoman Ingrassia.
They're in a Google Drives document.
Okay, I'll look right now.
Thank you.
From whom would the minutes have been emailed from?
Who does not have the minutes? It was sent from the BOA clerk's website, web address.
If you go into your drive for the city's email and then go on the left to the drive folder,
Yeah,
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the July 1st, 2019 Youth and Education Matters Committee.
Second.
Motion made by Alderwoman Ingrassia, second by Alderman Gunther. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Ingrassia.
Aye.
Alderman Gunther.
Aye.
Alderwoman Rice.
Aye.
Alderwoman Martin.
Aye.
Alderwoman Navarro.
aye.
Alderwoman Middlebrook. Alderwoman Middlebrook. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Chairman Muhammad.
Aye.
Alderwoman Middlebrook. I don't know if she's muted. 7 aye votes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So before us, we have Board Bill number 8, sponsored by Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and members of the public. Thank you all for taking the time out this morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for taking the time out this morning. Board Bill number 8 is a request of the City Mental Health Board. It's placed before the very qualified voters of the City of St. Louis on the November 3rd ballot, a proposal to increase the tax rate for the Community Children's Services Fund from the 19% that it currently is, that was put forth in 2004, to the assessed valuation of 25 cents, which is the maximum authorized by state statute. I was honored and humbled to be invited to work on this project, because Board Bill number 8 is not just something I want to work on as a job. It's something that I believe in. I'm a proud public school parent. I'm a mother of 5. I believe in early childhood education. I believe in making sure that we do everything we can to enrich again and impact early childhood education in the City of St. Louis. I'm not new to this. I didn't just get introduced to this by me, again, being a proud public school parent. I have attended plenty of meetings in the St. Louis Public Schools. I sit on the Parent Action Council, as well as I attend the board meetings. So I've been around organizations like Better Budgets, Better Schools, We Power, the different PTOs and things that are all vested in this kind of work and this kind of help for our families in the City of St. Louis. So again, importantly, a couple of things I want to note is that this does not take away from what we're already doing now. It adds, it absolutely adds, it impacts, enriches and it strengthens the programs that we already have in place now. The elephant in the room, I know that we're going through a pandemic. I know we're in a situation that we've never been in before. I know we're in times that we've never been in before. I also know that whether we were in these times or not, tax increases are just hard. You know, is there ever a right time to ask for a tax increase? I don't know the answer to that question. For many, it's probably no. But the reality is this is already a tax. St. Louis does have one of the lowest tax rates. If you're at the base, it's only 8.16 cents. And this is an increase on the 19 cents that we're already paying. So 6 cents in the big scope of things is less than a 1% increase on where we already are at now. So I just want to thank again my colleagues. Let's see, a couple of weeks ago, prior to this bill being introduced, I sent out an email to all of them, asking them, telling them about it, telling them it was going to get introduced, asking them for their support, possibly be co-signers, co-sponsors to talk with me about it. And many of them called me and emailed me, and we had very good conversations. We got a lot of questions answered. I'm excited that more questions will be able to be asked and answered today. But even with what we were offered today, I just want to add that in addition to the names on the list, our colleagues Alderman Oldenburg, Alderwoman Martin, and Alderman Jeffrey Boyd also signed on to be co-sponsors of this legislation, because at the end of the day, this is about giving the people, again, the qualified voters in the City of St. Louis, the option so to choose. And I do want to make one public apology before I pass it over to the speakers. I sent out that blanket email to a copied and pasted group of all of my colleagues, and I thought they were on there. And when I went back and checked, I saw that my colleague Shane Cohn was not on there. So I do need to publicly apologize to him. He did not get the email that I sent out, and I sent the email to him just this morning when I realized this. So I do see that he's not on the meeting today, but I did want to make that public apology. I told him to give me a chance, give me a break, I'm learning. So with that, I would like to either open it up for questions for myself, or I would like, with your instruction, ma'am, and I would like to let the speaker speak in order.
Absolutely. First, can you make the motion to put Board Bill number 8 in front of us?
Yes, I would like to make the motion to put Board Bill number 8 in front of you all, and I would ask you all for a due pass recommendation.
The motion was made. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, you now can proceed with public testimony from interested parties.
Okay, and they're in order, so I would like to, I'm not sure if they unmute themselves.
First is Mr. Bill Keelan.
Yes.
I'm Bill Keeling. I'm an attorney at Thompson Coburn, and I'm here today as attorney to the City Mental Health Board. I've served in that capacity since 1994 when it was created. And I am kind of give you a little bit of the legal structure. And then following me, Jama Dodson, who has served as executive director of the Mental Health Board, will speak as about the Mental Health Board, what it has done already, history with that, and what it would do if this tax proposition was passed. The City Mental Health Board is an entity similar to the public library and the city's MRDD board and the senior fund, for that matter. It exists pursuant to state statute. The state statute lays out kind of how the board will be appointed, how it functions, and what purposes it can have, and what kind of tax it can have. In this case, the Mental Health Board administers two different items. One is the community mental health side, which has a levy, and then there's the Community Children's Services Fund. And there is part of that. The City Mental Health Board was dealing with some drug alcohol issues, also dealing with basically youth mental health issues, which were also going to be addressed by the Children's Fund. It was felt that it was best to unify the direction of both. It also results in the most efficient administration where you don't have to duplicate administration. The boards for these entities are nominated by the mayor and approved by the Board of Aldermen. They represent a variety of city residents. You can go on the Mental Health Board website, which gives a good explanation of the 13 members that are on there. Very diverse group, but a very excellent group. It's really a pretty amazing board when you look at the what some of the people bring to the table for the board. This bill would put on the ballot in November a 6-cent tax that would bring the Community Children's Service Fund up to the maximum tax that's authorized of 25 cents on the dollar. The tax would not go into effect this year if it was approved. It would not go into tax bills would be being set out basically around the same time as the election was going to be held. As I said, the services that it can provide are authorized in state statute. The city really can't change that. There's really city statute or the MRDD board. That's done through the state legislature. So at that point, I'm happy to answer any questions. And if there aren't any, I'll turn it over to Jama Dodson, who can speak as to the mental health board that's done under children's services and what it would do.
Thank you, Mr. Killen. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, do you have any more invited guests?
Yes. Next is would be Ms. Jama. If there's no questions for Mr. Keeling, it would be Ms. Jama Dodson.
Hold on, I think Alderwoman Rice has a question for Mr. Keeling.
Okay. Okay.
I do, if that's all right, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Keeling, for coming before us today and bringing us some information. I think we're all curious about this proposed increase. And I'm asking just to ask you specifically a little bit about the funding mechanism, if I could. So this is a property tax that is collected and goes to the whole of the mental health board, and then the health board gets to decide how much of it goes to the Children's Services Fund or the other fund, or no?
No, the mental health board actually keeps, it separates out between the two, basically the revenue that is for mental health and the revenue that's for children's services funds. And they do that pretty religiously.
Okay, and so those are separate taxes that are collected.
Correct, separate taxes collected and separately, totally separated out in their books. And when you see their annual budget, you see they approve a certain amount for community mental health services and a certain amount for community children's services fund.
Okay, great. And then could you talk a little bit about the property taxes through this state? Would this raise, I hear a lot about caps as far as what we're allowed to tax to. This is a pretty decent jump in percentage points. About what the state guidelines are here.
The state has authorized the taxation for this purpose of community children's services up to 25 cents per $100 assessed value. The caps that you refer to are basically how the Hancock Amendment and some other state legislation impacts on the level of taxes that you can apply. What it does, it takes into account increases in property values within a jurisdiction. And if the property values increase above a certain percentage, that's really basically set by computer models that are in the state auditor's office. So when you go to set your tax rate for the year, you plug in what the assessor what your authorized maximum is. And if you'll see in the taxes for the mental health board, both of them are generally less than what's authorized. So they've had to roll back the tax level from what was authorized by the voters to a lower number to keep it within that maximum cap. So in actuality, the 19 cents that's been levied so far, I'm trying to remember what the amount was this year. It's usually like 18.67% or something like that cents. It's usually a somewhat lower amount. So when this goes into effect, the full tax may not be 25 cents. It may be a lower number. It's not going to be a higher number.
Okay, I think that's helpful. That gives for the rest of the discussion, so I can hold my questions until later. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Alderwoman Rice. Are there any further questions for Mr. Bill Keeling from any of the committee members? Okay, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, you can proceed with your next guest.
I would like to bring up Jama Dodson.
Is she, yes, we can. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Yes, great. Thank you very much. Good morning, Chairman Collins Mohammed and other members of the committee. I really appreciate being able to come before you today and talk a little bit about our organization. I live in the year in the year 2000. I have lived in the city in Ward 15, and our offices are at Union Station, which is in Ward 6. So we have a lot of investment in our city, as well as being a city entity for that matter. I think Bill gave you pretty good oversight of our, some of the sound was coming in and out, but I think he gave you the oversight. Just wanted to, I think a question came up of which taxes we take in, and our tax funds come, of course, property tax, but it's broken into real estate, personal property, and then manufacturing and institutional taxes. So those are the sources of our property tax, which is, I think, the standard position. One of the things you may not know, though, is that we do supplement our local tax with as much as we possibly can. We feel that we should be trying to add to the availability of resources. So we often go for, and over the years have secured national grants, federal grants, and we currently have a for the next 3 years after this year, committed of approximately $1 million a year. So we add to our city tax dollars with those funds. And that one is that particular one is for the system of care for helping juvenile justice youth be having better services and more responsive services. I think that one of the things that is important to us is that in 10 years, 10 years after that we were founded, the children's tax came into being because people were very concerned about the well-being of children and youth. And that tax allows us to serve children birth through 18. We, over the years, having made those services available, funded many of those services, you realize how important the early years are. Infants and toddlers are really in need of services or just quality places to learn and grow. And the community is sorely in need of more of those kinds of services. We do take seriously our role in the community, and we take seriously our, as well as the investing in programs that are high quality or that have the makings of high quality that we can help through our technical assistance and support to be better and better for our children. And that's why this fund seems to really make a lot of sense to be able to add to the array of services that we have in our community, not all of which, of course, are funded by us. In fact, only about 13% of our funds can go, at this point in time, are going to early childhood programs. And we really we know that there's a greater need in that. Altogether, we administer between the two funds, administer $3.5 million for the mental health fund and $7.5 million for the Children's Services Fund every year. And we have relationships and funding relationships with over 60 organizations in doing that. Those organizations are all required to be 501c3 nonprofit entities. We did become aware of the effort that's underway in our community to increase the high quality early childhood programs. And because we've had a mission over the years in both children's services as well as community involvement in advisory groups to us, it seemed like that I believe that was one of the reasons why people thought of us as a possible home for an additional early childhood initiative like this. And increasing our tax was one of the ways that it seemed right to be able to support the system as much as we possibly can. The board did agree that if the ballot passes, they agreed that they'd be willing to allow us to administer it. So I think that pretty much sums up what I had planned to say. You have questions for me? I'm ready, I think.
Do any of the committee members have any questions? Perfect. Alderman Clark Hubbard, do you have anyone else?
Yes, next I would like to bring up Ms. Katie Ryan.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
My name is Katie. Okay, thank you. My name is Katie Ron. I'm the Executive Director at Southside Early Childhood Center. We're located in Fox Park in the 6th Ward. Southside has been serving kids and families in South City for 135 years, and we provide services for children 6 weeks to 5 years old and their families. I've been in the field of childhood for a long time, but this is my 10th year at Southside. And along with this, I also co-chair the First Step to Equity Collaborative locally. I sit on the steering committee for the Ready by 5 St. Louis initiative. And I also chair an early childhood work group for the statewide Child Wellbeing Coalition Kids Win Missouri. So through that, we're focused on state level policy advocacy for early childhood. So all that to say, I'm incredibly passionate about this subject, and I appreciate you taking the time to listen today. I think it's critical to mention that high quality early childhood experiences lay the foundation for all other learning across a lifetime. And we know that kids who have opportunity to access high quality are more likely to be ready learners in kindergarten. They're more likely to be reading by 3rd grade. They're less likely to need special education or remediation, and they're more likely to graduate high school and go on to be impactful members of their communities. We also know that the earlier the exposure to these experiences, the deeper the impact. So research has shown that the period between birth and age 3 is absolutely critical for healthy brain development. So the earlier we can start, the better. We also know that high quality early childhood programs support families. Not only can parents go to work with the peace of mind knowing that their kids are safe and well cared for, but programs like Southside and many others are also helping families access their basic needs, including their financial stability, and also supporting parents with parenting education. I would like to mention that quality can exist anywhere, especially when appropriate resources and supports are in place. And strong early childhood systems have mixed delivery models that include everything from small home-based centers to larger centers and school district pre-K programs. And these systems are especially impactful when there's intentional coordination and alignment between the 0 to 3 and the pre-K and kindergarten programs. This variety is really critical, especially for working families who have non-traditional hours or infants and toddlers who need care. And that's really when centers and home-based programs play a vital role in the system. In the city, we know that the disparity in resources and the funding gap to change this disparity is massive. And the children who stand to gain the most from accessing quality early childhood are those who have the least amount of access to it. And the providers who are serving our community's most vulnerable families are those who have the least amount of support overall. So the funding stream can really begin to change this. With this investment, we'll be able to improve the quality of services provided across the city, especially for our infants and toddlers where the demand is so high and the need is unmet. It's just one of many funding strategies that need to be pursued, but it can be the foundation for an equitable early childhood system. Communities across the country, their youngest children and families first, and I think it's time St. Louis City did as well. And with your support, city voters can have the opportunity to decide on the importance of this priority. Thank you so much for letting me speak, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. I believe Alderwoman Ingrassia has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Katie, for the helpful information. Can you speak a little bit about how the process will work for determining where the funding goes, what gaps you're hoping to fill, and then what would still be out there in terms of need not addressed by the funding that would be included in this board bill?
Yes, Alderwoman Ingrassia, and I will try to remember each of those questions in a row, but let me start with your first question. I think the ideal scenario in terms of how funding is allocated, JAMA and the team at the Mental Health Board have a wonderful system in place that's led by community voice, and we would envision this working the same way, that there would be a community advisory council with subject matter experts, parents, and others, and JAMA can take over that piece for more detail. But I think we would envision that these funds be allocated in that way so that the priorities that have been set forth in all of the research that has been conducted locally and nationally that really promote what equitable access looks like would be upheld. And those would be the priority funding. So what that looks like, we helped support the First Step to Equity report, which mapped out where in the city families have the most and least amount of access to quality, where those centers and homes and school district programs exist and don't exist, who needs support. So we would hope that that would be a North Star for guiding allocation decisions. Because, you know, the data is already there. There's no need to redo it. And there's also just a host of research around what strategies actually work to successfully improve quality and sustain quality over time in the field of early childhood. So again, you know, we would hope that that would be the guidance followed for the allocation of these funds. And I'm not sure if I missed anything else in your.
Yeah, I had asked what gaps you're going to fill and what's still left.
Yeah, I think that, you know, this would generate approximately $2.3 million. There's still a much larger gap to fill. I mean, you know, we did the fiscal mapping through a partnership with a team of researchers at UMSL and the Children's Funding Project. And I don't know the number off the top of my head for St. Louis City, but combined for St. Louis City and St. Louis County, there's a $300 million gap annually that needs to be filled. So this is a small start for the city of St. Louis. And I think that everybody recognizes that this has to be combined with other funding streams, blended and braided with state and federal dollars to really support, you know, a universal 0 to 5 system. This is a starting point, but, you know, $2.3 million can have a huge impact in the system as it stands now. So supporting programs with compensation, deeper professional development and training, business management, coaching, facilities, improvements, all of these things can be done with $2.3 million and can have a huge impact.
Thank you very much. No further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Are there any further questions from members of the committee? Awesome. Alderman Clark Hubbard, you can proceed.
Next, I would like to bring up Rochelle B.
Thank you, but I believe Heather raised her hand.
Oh, I thought she was giving me a high five.
I'm sorry, Heather.
Go
ahead, Alderwoman Navarro.
Okay, thank you. I have a question. I'm not sure if somebody may be presenting this or if it's something that can be shared afterwards. I'm curious if there is a breakdown of, I know on the website, I've seen the list of all the organizations that have benefited from this fund. Is there a breakdown so far, either by, not necessarily by, I mean, maybe you do it by organization, obviously, but also by, I guess by need or by category, you know, whether it's early childhood, you know, just the different kind of buckets of funding and how that's been allocated up until now?
Yeah, it's not exactly as we have a huge database, and we could slice and dice anything you would like to see. I did ask our data person to give me a list of the programs that actually, they're not necessarily all directed at 0 to 5, but they include 0 to 5 children. It's kind of hard to break it down otherwise, but it looks like we're currently giving services. The services altogether come to serving 8,073, and that's because many of those programs are prevention programs where you have groups and that have larger numbers attached to them. So, but these are not child care centers or early childhood programs per se. For the most part, we do not have very many of those in our portfolio, but we do involve the families and children where the programs are working in that direction. So I think the 2.3 million would help us to focus more on the early childhood programming as envisioned, the way Katie described it just a moment ago, with the high quality elements that are necessary to bring our children into ready for learning.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Rice.
Thank you so much. Just to follow up on that, Jama, so I guess I'm still kind of trying to wrap my head around exactly what this funding would go towards. So if the Children's Services Fund is not currently funding child care centers or early childhood centers, is that what this additional 2.3 million is going to be going for, or is it supporting programming in already existing spaces?
You know, it's kind of early days to be able to say, but I believe that it would do a little bit of both. I think what it's going to do is help improve the quality of some of the existing programs that are out there, maybe not ones that we're funding, but others as well. And I think it's also going to be perhaps adding capacity for maybe a program that can, because of the ratios that are required, maybe they can only serve a few children, but maybe with a couple of more staff people, they could serve more. And more children would be eligible for those services, or would access those services than we have now. So it can be a little bit of both, and it would depend upon the programs that are identified and what their plan for expanding capacity would look like. But that's the kind of thing that we already do in other domains that we work in. So that wouldn't be different from what we do now.
Okay, and then I'm blanking on the name of the report that came out that Katie referenced. Could you remind me what the name of that report was? And
Yeah,
I'll pull that
I know
up real
what you
quickly.
mean too. I am.
The playbook.
Playbook. Okay.
The playbook. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And Alderwoman Rice, I was talking about the First Step to Equity report. If you're looking for the mapping data, that's where it is.
Katie, do you have a link to that you can send us?
Katie.
Yes, we're putting it in the chat.
Gotcha. Awesome. Are there any further from members of the committee? Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, proceed.
Thank you. Again, I want to now bring up Miss Rochelle B.
Thank you, guys. Good morning. First, I want to say to Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, I'm excited to hear how excited you are and invested in early childhood and education itself. It speaks volume to get on a call and be able to present to someone that has the same passion that we do about education. I want to say that I am with Beginning Futures Learning Center, and we're located in North St. Louis. We're in the 27th Ward. I, too, am a St. Louis City resident, and I reside in the 18th Ward. And I've been a city resident for the past 5 years. I want to speak on African Americans and how this will benefit us in addition to all students, because I want us to survive and win and have a level playing field, but I am most importantly concerned about everyone being on a level playing field. Again, I'm in North St. Louis, and everyone on this call is familiar with our metropolitan area and how St. Louis has underdeserved areas, in the north side being one of them. Walnut Park area particularly is where I'm located at. And the objective of this is to basically give children a level playing field, opportunities to access education, quality slots in any area that they may reside in. Being in an underdeserved area like myself, children are always in a fight or flight mode. And What we're looking to is just get them into a space that offers consistency, quality services daily so that they can thrive. So I wanted to talk about from the time that children are born, they have the right to always be in care, safe spaces that support them to thrive at their full potential. Whether the families choose a relative, in-home provider, or provide their school district or community, it's a challenge now to find quality care. And more likely because of the out-of-pocket expense. Every dollar that we can get publicly to invest back into education from as early as birth, entering into kindergarten, is going to be a benefit to us all. And all is to locate high quality childcare. Most families can't afford it. And so likely you find them just not even choosing care or finding less than standard care, which has an effect on their later investment in education. But it is crucial at this time. Kids who have high quality education are less likely to need special education services and more likely to be ready for kindergarten, and ultimately more successful to graduate from high school. Their growth and development at this age is trajectory to their life. By investing into early childhood education, we're making our children a priority. Investing in early care and education is, I want to refer to it as, have we all tried, and we've all tried a new job and going in not knowing what's going on or what to expect. Giving them a solid foundation and having access to early childhood, quality early childhood, prepares them. They go into their educational career with a solid foundation, a pre-exposed notion of what to do and how to be successful. We're just simply asking that you join this investment so that all children can have an opportunity. And more so those that are in areas that are less deserving and underdeserved, or we just don't have all the sources that we need in our community, and our parents can't necessarily afford everything to be successful and to ensure that our children have a successful educational career.
Thank you. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Did anyone have any questions? Thank you so much, Ms. B. Did anyone have any questions for her? Okay,
Perfect.
well, next I would like to bring up Ms. Cortega Collins.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Chairman and committee members, and good morning, Alderman Clark Hubbard. Thank you all so much for making this call possible and presenting this bill and desiring to want to invest in early childhood education. So again, my name is Cortega Collins, and I am the owner of Good Shepherd Preschool and Infant Toddler Center. And we are located in the 1st Ward and the 22nd Ward. We provide care to children from birth to 12 years old through our before and after care program, but the crux of our services include providing early childhood education. And access to high quality early childhood education is imperative in preparing children for later academic and social success. Early childhood education offers benefits to both parents and the child. It provides peace of mind to mothers that allow them to continue their education or to work to make a living, which is the sole reason I started this center, was to provide mothers with peace of mind, to provide them with the peace of mind that I didn't have when it was time for me to return to work after the birth of my son. These programs provide stability and routine for children, in addition to healthy, balanced meals, which helps to reduce the impact of adverse situations at home. Poverty is prominent in the community I serve, and I believe that education is a great equalizer, and providing access to education and quality programs arms the children and their families to potentially break cycles of poverty that exist in some of these families. A gap in services also exists in some of our immigrant communities. In addition to adapting to cultural differences, the language barrier must be overcome to provide quality service to these children. Early childhood programs need additional support to provide equitable, quality care to this vulnerable population of children. Elementary school teachers can attest to the value that early childhood education provides to children as they prepare to enter kindergarten. And an elementary school principal told me that she could easily identify which children in her entering kindergarten programs attended an early childhood program. She further explained that they were able to accurately predict the child's future academic success by the third grade. As Katie mentioned, the child's brain is more receptive to learning during their first 5 years of life. During this time, they are forming fundamental building blocks for future development and learning achievement. Yet our school system wasn't designed to serve children during these crucial early years. Early childhood educators are charged with shaping the minds of children during this critical point in their life. However, the average wage for an early childhood educator is only $10.72 per hour. Their compensation should be commensurate with the magnitude of their responsibilities. We must do better. And by investing in services to our youngest children, we can ensure our entire education system is built for success. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Okay. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Thank you, Ms. Collins. Lastly, I would like to bring up Ms. Kate Pola. I'm sorry if I mispronounced it.
No, you did a great job. It's a nightmare last name. So thank you everyone for allowing me to speak. My name is Kate Pola. I'm a former St. Louis Public School District teacher, a social worker, a Tomorrow Builder Fellow with We Power, and a mother of two. I have lived in St. Louis City for nearly my entire life, and I've called the 6th Ward home for the past 11 years. As an educator and social worker, I know that high quality early childhood education is an important foundation for success, health, and happiness in life. The social emotional skills that young children develop under the guidance of skilled teachers prepare children not only for the K through 12 classroom, but also to be healthy, functioning adults. As the mother of a neurodivergent child, I know how critical early childhood programs are for early screening and early interventions that help children and families receive important supports as early in life as possible, as Katie mentioned, when they have the most impact. We know from the work of For the Sake of All and Forward Through Ferguson that there is a deep divide in how our region cares for young children, depending on the zip code they live in and the color of their skin. In 2018, IFF took an even deeper dive into understanding the gaps in early childhood education in St. Louis. They found that of the 10,000 children ages 0 to 5 in St. Louis City, we have childcare slots for only half of them. The First Step to Equity Collaborative joined forces to address this gap and worked with the We Power Tomorrow Builder Fellows over the past year to develop an actionable plan to redesign our early childhood education system. This action plan started with listening to our community. We surveyed families with young children, and we conducted visioning sessions where community members shared what a high quality early childcare system would look like and feel like for them. Community members, including St. Louis Public School District parents and leadership, served on our solution teams and our design council to develop detailed plans across multiple areas of the early childcare system. The action plan we developed, which we call the playbook, is going to take many years to fully implement. Big change takes time. But there is work to be done right now this year. After looking at the many possible ways to better fund early childhood education in our region, one thing was clear: dedicated local public funding would be a huge step in the direction of filling this critical gap. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Did anyone have any questions for Mrs. Pola? We can't hear you, John.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I think we're all good. Would you like to make the motion to pass Board Bill number 8?
Yes, I would like to renew my motion. I would just like to add a couple of things. One, I want to make sure that people know why I was so led to this is because it is community led, like a lot of the speakers said. And I believe that with the proper allocation of these funds being transparent and equitable, which the mental health board has already proven, has a proven track record of that, I think that this will make the change we need. Again, I'm not afraid of the big bad raising the taxes wolf that a lot of people will try to say, because the reality of that is no money, no mission. And we raise taxes for things that are way more, well, we'll leave it alone. We raise taxes for things that are not as impactful as this would be. So that's why this is important to me, and I hope that it would be important to you. And the reality also is that when it passes out of committee today, and when it passes on the November 3rd ballot, when we wake up on November the 4th, those taxes won't be raised that day either. I mean, this is still going to take time. So I hate to not pour that into people where they'll just run from it because of that, especially during times like these. This work was already being done, but because of the pandemic, because of COVID-19, the petition process is just an unrealistic ask right now. So that is why they came to us and asking us to do it through an automatic board vote. So with that, if there aren't any more questions, I would like to renew my motion.
From Alderwoman Rice.
Okay. And Gunther is Alderman Gunther as well, I think.
Yeah.
We're going to skip Alderman Gunther.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Alderwoman Clark Hubbard for bringing this. I spent a number of years working in an early childhood center and working with very young children and seeing the difference that early childhood education made on children as they came through, and is incredibly important. I think my main questions that I still have that don't necessarily keep me from voting in support of this today, but are really about how do we ensure that this money does actually go to the places of highest need. I know that we've got the playbook and we have the IFF report, but what, like, the structure within this bill that would allocate this tax money directly to those early childhood centers, to those programs, and to how do we continue to expand the number of people or the number of children that we're reaching, right? I think those are sort of my biggest questions. And I know that we're dealing with a little bit of technological challenges getting the reports back from the from the Children's Services Fund over the last couple of years. And so I'm looking forward to receiving those, and we can perhaps discuss them on the full board floor. But especially as we go forward and asking residents to continue to pay more taxes is going to be a big ask, right? And I think for our children is one of the best asks we could make. And I completely support if we can change outcomes for the whole next generations of children coming through, would be incredible. I think it's also incumbent on us as a board to look at the way that we handle taxes as they come in front of the board in the forms of tax abatements and of TIFs, and the ways that we either undercut our own sources of funding and we disproportionately affect the people who have been residents of our city the longest, those folks who are not getting tax abatements, who are continuing to pay more. And that's something that my ward does deal with, is that there were lots of tax abatements given over a long number of years. And so there are long-term residents here who do get forced out when we increase taxes because they are on incomes that aren't increasing along with their property taxes. And so that's something that I am holding, that we're an award that's in pretty good shape, but we have families who have not benefited in the same way from the system as some others have. And so just trying to hold them as we go forward in this as well, that they all want the best for our next generations. This makes a better city for all of us. But just holding that space and trying to figure out how we communicate the best that this is going to do what we say it's going to do. When we allocate tax money, we really have to demonstrate that this is going to do exactly what we want it to do. And yeah, so I'll be looking for more documents about the funding and where we're hoping that this is going to go and that kind of thing as we go forward. But I do thank you all for being here and for your testimony and for your work for our children.
Thank you, Alderwoman Rice. Alderman Gunther?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the Alderwoman from the 26th for answering my phone call last night with some questions about this. So I think she was able to answer some things. But since we've had a lot of the experts, I guess, being able to testify, I had a couple questions. I know that in the overview of the bill, it talks about how there are 225 licensed early child care providers in the city. Yet during the testimony, we've talked, it was mentioned that there's about 60 organizations. So my question is, how is this funding going to more like the home-based daycares, or does it at all go to any home-based daycares? I know that, there are a number of residents in my neighborhood that do use the Southside Early Child Care Center, as well as some residents that work there, but I do have a lot of just smaller home-based child cares that I think they could be, not only be able to serve more clients immediately in neighborhoods, but also could probably benefit from some training as well. So for any one of the panelists, I guess my question is, does any money go to the smaller providers versus the 60 organizations that you have listed on your site? So that's question one.
Maybe I'll take that one since I'm the one who mentioned the 60 agencies. I think the 60 agencies was a reference to the agencies that we fund now for all kinds of things related to children, not just limited to early childhood. So let me just make sure I'm clear about that. But in terms of would the funding be granted to small home care? I think absolutely it would, because that's where some of the greatest need is. I am not alone going to make all those decisions. We will have an advisory group made up of some of the same people that are working right now in front of you, and parents as well as experts, so to speak. And they will help us to identify which kinds of things we want to fund within the neighborhoods and the high need areas that have been identified. So it's hard to explain, in a short way, but we ask for an application. It will be abbreviated. It will not be a long and difficult one. Then we'll review those and we'll ask for help from the advisory group to review those applications. And then we'll select from there finalists that we will then be able to see what kinds of needs those particular organizations have, in keeping in mind the principles of high quality that early childhood has to be standing up for. And probably somebody else can give better insight into the criteria, but we follow what we're being asked to do by our community for the most part, and then we try to put our knowledge and professional skills into making what the community is asking for, making it good. And that's sort of our claim to fame, that we make things better because that's our job. But we listen to the community in terms of what they need and want. And then we translate it to, okay, how do we get this to them in a way that's going to be good?
And Alderman Gunther, can I just add one piece to that, if you don't mind?
Sure.
I think programs like Southside are really different than the programs that I would envision these funds supporting overall. Southside, we have, not that Southside doesn't need support, so, my board will kill me for saying that, but we have a lot of different diverse funding streams, flowing into the program that most programs, most early childhood programs serving vulnerable kids and families do not. So for me, I think it would be incredibly important that these funds touch the programs who haven't had the ability to access the types of funds that a program like Southside has. And, you know, for us and for other larger centers, you know, we've been really working hard over the last few years to create networks of providers that include small and medium-sized programs, home-based and centers, and really wrapping each other in support and using whatever power or leverage we have to get funds flowing to those programs and create efficiencies and economies of scale for, you know, shared services, training, professional development, and so things like that should be included and enhanced, but also direct lines for compensation to the small that programs can use for compensation and you know, for their teams is incredibly important to improving the overall quality of the system. So I would say, you know, at least personally, I would advocate very strongly that the funds go to the programs who have not had access to the variety of revenue streams that some currently do.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and then I guess I share some of the concerns of my colleague from the 8th that, you know, we're in a difficult time. We're looking at large revenue losses everywhere, and to be able to come to people right now with a tax increase, I think might be hard to stomach for some people. But obviously, we're all in support of early childhood education. So kind of a little bit on the oversight part of it, because this is a board that gets appointed by the mayor, it gets approved by the Board of Aldermen, but then after the approval, is there, what kind of oversight is there for the tax dollars besides every year we get a annual report from the Mental Health Board, just a paper report, but are there opportunities more for oversight throughout the year of how the dollars are being used and where they're being spent? And that might be for Bill, maybe.
We again, we have an audit every year. We also have our board, and that's the real group that we are accountable to. We have our you know, the amounts that we give out are provided to them every, you know, twice a year. They see we have a quarterly report that we share with them as well. So, you know, we have pretty tight financial management. We also have a finance committee that reviews where we are in any given time and looks at policies and so forth. We have accounting policies, we have investment policies, we have allocation policies that we follow. And I don't want to be, you know, sound like it's just a you know, a bunch of papers. We truly do follow that. And one of the things that I wanted to comment on, how would we know if the money was going to go to where we wanted it to go? First of all, you know, we would have a resolution by our board about if this fund is passed, this amount will be dedicated and reserved for early childhood. That resolution would be made public. It's part of the, you know, the action item of our board, and they would hold us accountable to that. That's, though they're not you, they are still very seriously, you know, concerned about what goes on, very involved, and they definitely pull me up if there was anything inappropriate, and they would. There's no doubt about that. I don't know, Bill, you might have some additional, you know, insights.
Well, this is Bill Keeling. The only additional item I would add is that there is a large number of these agencies who are plugged into how this process is occurring. And I mean, you know, 50 or 60 at a time. And they are very watchful of what's going on within these funds. And they are vocal. They are very well connected. And, you would certainly hear from them, and I think others would hear from them if they thought that these funds were not being used in a proper manner.
Okay, thank you. And then I guess just my final thing is just kind of a technicality. So throughout the bill itself and the overview of the bill, it talks about $2.3 million that this would possibly raise. However, on the actual bill, page 1, line 20, it says 2.2 million. I know it's only $100,000, but $100,000 of taxpayer money is kind of a difference. So I don't know if that just was a clerical oversight or if it is 2.3 million or 2.2.
This is Bill Keeling again. It's actually, I think for consistency, this was probably basically a scrivener's error. It should have been 2.3 million in there for consistency purposes. I'm glad you spotted that. These are estimates,
Okay.
of course, and by the time you're done with the net that you receive from the collector, it may be 2.2 or maybe 2.289.
Okay.
Right, with pocket change. But I do think it's a scrivener's error that I will talk to the clerk and see if, with the concurrence of the committee, just making a revision of that to 2.3.
Okay, that's my only question. Thank you, everyone.
Alderwoman Navarro has a question.
Thank you. If someone was going to follow up on that last piece, though, I'm happy to wait. It sounded like someone else was jumping in there. But maybe not.
Alderwoman.
Sorry, I think you cut out. I'll go ahead. I just wanted to say thank you to all of you who came to testify today. I think the work that you do is really incredible. And I'm really grateful for it. I know that it matters to every single person in the city, whether they have a small child or not. Early childhood education and the work and the services, all that you provide, that the partners that you work with provide is incredibly important. I can't think of a better use of taxpayer dollars than the work that you all are doing. I do understand it's a difficult time for people to be thinking about raising taxes. And I mean, that's why I'm going to support this, to put it on the ballot. November's a ways away yet. And if, if it's not a good time for people, then, we'll hear this. I understand. I'm sure this has all been in the works before COVID-19 was upon us. So, I mean, I understand that, I'm sure a lot of people are like, why are we even talking about this now? But obviously the need was here before COVID-19. We know it's just going to get greater. The disparities are going to get greater. So I just, really applaud you for the work that you do. I'll be interested to see, where this goes, how it goes with the alderman, and as well as, if it ends up on the ballot in November. But I do just want to take this opportunity to say thank you for the incredible work that you all do. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Are there any further questions from members of the committee at this time? Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, do you want to renew your motion?
Yes, I renew my motion.
The motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderwoman Ingrassia. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Ingrassia.
Aye.
Alderman Gunther.
Aye.
Alderwoman Martin.
Aye.
Alderwoman Navarro.
Aye.
Alderwoman Middlebrook. Is she on still?
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Rice.
Aye.
Chairman Muhammad.
Aye.
8 aye votes.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, you have passed board bill number 8 out of committee. So your guest is they are more than welcome to stay on the call, but of course they do not have to. At this time, we will be hearing from St. Louis Community College, if I'm correct, right, Alderwoman Navarro?
Yes, thank you. We have, where is Leslie on my screen? She was just there. Is she still here?
I see Leslie.
Okay, great. So Leslie's going to talk a little bit about, there she is, Leslie English Abram, talk a little bit about a new opportunity that a few of us learned about last week, and we thought we really wanted to make sure that other aldermen in the community knew about some of the opportunities that they're developing at St. Louis Community College. So I just thought it'd be good to take maybe 5 minutes. I thought this committee would be an appropriate place for them to share this information. So I'd like to turn it over to Leslie.
Leslie?
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great, wonderful. So I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman and Alderwoman Navarro, for inviting me to talk about some of St. Louis Community College's what we call workforce accelerated training programs. We know that with the pandemic and so many individuals within the St. Louis metropolitan area being displaced from their jobs, this gives the college an opportunity to really promote some of what we call our workforce accelerated training programs. And I'm going to share with you all 6 of those programs, and the purpose of those programs is to get individuals trained. Most of these programs are anywhere from 3 weeks to 23 weeks, and they go directly into full-time employment. So the first program that I want to share with you is called the Power Skills Bootcamp, and this is a 3-week training program. It was supposed to be held in person, but the college, as I'm sure you're aware, had to convert most of its programs that were in person to online. And so this program trains individuals for entry-level customer service, IT jobs in the financial industry, even healthcare, like a patient access representative type training. So we're teaching the Microsoft Office Specialist Certification in Excel with this training program, which is a national certification offered by Microsoft. We're teaching cybersecurity, PC fundamentals, and then career development, making sure that when individuals complete this 3-week training program, they have a well-prepared resume and making sure they have interviewing skills so they can obtain employment. The next 2 programs that I want to share with you all are healthcare programs, and we all know that healthcare is greatly in demand right now. So one is the Patient Care Technician Training Program, which is an 8-week training program, which is held at either the Forest Park campus or the corporate college location of St. Louis Community College. And really, patient care technicians are similar to CNAs. However, they work in acute care, so in a hospital setting, as opposed to long-term care. We also have what we call a medical assistant training. As you're aware, when you go to a doctor's office, typically when you're getting your height, weight checked, or your blood pressure, that's not a nurse, it's typically a medical assistant. And the medical assistant program that the college has is at the corporate college location of the college. It's 23 weeks. And both these healthcare programs are what we call pre-employment programs, meaning that when individuals complete these programs, they are automatically interviewed by our healthcare partners. So for those programs, we always work with a healthcare partner who's ready to hire on our graduates at the end. The other programs that I want to share is the Boeing pre-employment program. That's also a pre-employment program, meaning that when individuals complete the Boeing program, they are interviewed by Boeing. And so there are 2 tracks for the Boeing program. There's the sheet metal assembly mechanic and the composite assembly mechanic training. That program is 5 weeks, and there are daytime classes and evening classes to accommodate individuals. Another program that we have is the HVAC Operator 1 training program, which is also at the Center for Workforce Innovation, which is adjacent to the Florissant Valley campus of St. Louis Community College. And that training program is 8 weekdays. So it's a very short training program, but great skill that individuals can get and get back out into the workforce. And then the last program that I wanted to share with you all is called the Missouri Manufacturing Technician Training Program, which is a 5-week training program. and is also held at the Center for Workforce Innovation of St. Louis Community College. And the nice part about these programs, the majority of the programs are what we call grant funded. So when participants enroll in the training program, it is of no cost to them. And even the programs that are not grant funded, we work with the Slate, Missouri Job Center in St. Louis City. And in St. Louis County, we work with the Job Center there to help individuals obtain what we call individual training accounts or funding. So for any of our programs, no one pays out of pocket. We always try to find funding opportunities for them. But many of our programs right now are grant funded. And we know that the Department of Labor has recently been pouring a lot of money into retraining for displaced workers. And a lot of that money is being disseminated to the job centers to provide training. And so we work with both Slate and St. Louis County Job Centers with our customers to help them be successful. So I just want to thank you all. And if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer those for you.
Thank you, Leslie. Are there any questions for Leslie? Perfect. Thank you, Leslie. We appreciate your time. Do you have literature and information that you can email Alderwoman Navarro? And
I will do that. Yes, I can do that. I'd be happy to share with you all. Thank you all so very much. I appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah. That concludes all of our business for today. I do want to make sure that people know the vice chair of this committee will be Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. I sent that notification to the clerk and the assistant clerk earlier last week. I just wanted to make sure that members of the committee were informed of that. Seeing no other business that we need to discuss, I request for someone to motion for the ending of this meeting.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Been moving second. Previous roll.
Thank you.
Is there a request for previous roll?
Request for previous row.
There we go. Thank you all. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.